I don't like to make stars out of killers, and I'm really not going to. I don't even want to address this kid by his name. I do want to talk about his family life, and his dad in particular. This is a Hollywood cretin. It really is. This is a product of the Hollywood morals gone awry. You'll notice that people are screaming for, you got to do something. We got to take these guns off the street. He killed as many people with a knife as he did with a gun. Did anybody talk about that? Are we talking about knife control now, too? Nope. Because the media has an agenda. And so the only reason why and you know what? Media, you are going to destroy yourself and all of us along with you if you don't stop with the agenda. How many people could not watch or connect with this story because of your agenda? You're preaching to your choir. If this kid went out and bought guns illegally, great. Even the police didn't know, so the local gun seller should know? How would the local gun seller know that the kid is crazy? Well, there's got to be some way. No, there's not, unless you say nobody buys guns. And that's your agenda. And I can't be the only person on the planet or the only person in America that worried about his kids. And I don't mean about just them getting shot. Yes, I am concerned about that. That's something I dealt with Columbine. And I think most of us, anybody who's my age, you started thinking about those things in Columbine. We're already down that road. Out of all of the serial killers, out of all of the mass killings, and I'll bet you this is another one too. It was on a college campus, right? Mm-hmm. Gun-free zone. Out of every single mass killing, mass shooting in American history since 1950, all of them,
except for two.
Where were the two? Do you know?
I don't.
They all happened in a gun-free zone.
Mm-hmm. So, all but two. Yeah, and, that's an amazing percentage.
Staggering. That's a staggering amount.
When you have gone off your rocker and you want to kill people, you go to a place where you're not going to be killed first.
That's right. That's right.
It just makes sense.
And he already knew in his manifesto, that he was going to point the gun to himself and kill himself. Well, that's the way you end all video games. If you read his manifesto, he speaks about video games and said, I knew at some point I got this video game and I was playing it, and I knew at some point I had crossed a bridge that I could no longer go back. A piece of me had died inside. Is anybody talking about that? Because this is the conversation we should be happening.
They will not.
They will not talk
ever
about it,
talk
especially
about that,
in Hollywood.
Because then, by golly, Hollywood would have to accept some sort of responsibility. And,
all the films, you can't have
movies.
it. You can't have it two ways. You say that you can't have anybody smoking on television or in movies because it affects people.
Fine.
But gun violence is totally fine. Mm-hmm. You're also in the business of making all of these video games. The reason why they won't deal with this is because it points the finger directly to them. And I'm not looking for finger pointing. I don't really care. What the discussion that I want is my kids.
Hollywood's also in the business of sexual deviancy. And that's what this guy was all about. He wanted to have sex with girls. And he didn't want them to have any say about whether or not they were going to.
Now, where does that come from? Where does that come from? Two things. One, Dad is a Hollywood filmmaker.
Yeah.
All TNA. A Hollywood filmmaker. Two, Dad is going around the world shooting the naked butts of women in front of the Eiffel Tower, in front of the Statue of Liberty, all around the world, shooting the naked butts of women. Mm. And you wonder what happened to your son. You wonder how your son has come to objectify women. Well, I don't know, Dad. What were you doing with the camera? Well, it was art. Oh, was it? Maybe our kids can't tell the difference between art and pornography, art and objectification. Maybe they don't process it like that anymore. I read something from James Altucher this weekend, and he had a Facebook post, and it was one of the most honest Facebook posts. It had nothing to do with this. I have to read it to you. It was about him in school and how he was constantly made fun of and everything else. But he's not saying poor me. And he's talking about how no girl would look at him or anything else. And he said, and then my buddy and I, we found an old penthouse. And we went and we scoured that thing, and I kept some of the pictures in the basement, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to do that anymore. Our kids are surrounded by this filth. It is everywhere. And it is rewiring our children's brains. We don't have any idea the damage it's being done because this is the first generation. And nobody wants to talk about that. I don't care about anything that I can't personally affect anymore. I care deeply about the parents and the families and the children that have been lost. Deeply. But what I want to know is what can I do personally to make sure my son or daughter doesn't become this, a victim or a violent psychopath? We're not even talking about the evil that is creeping into all of our homes. What has changed in society? Guns have been around for a long time, so have knives. What has changed in our society? That's the conversation we should be happening. We should be having, but we're not. And you know why? Read the manifesto. Let me just give you a couple of highlights, and then we're going to play some of the audio. Read the manifesto. He wrote, the ultimate evil behind sexuality is the human female. He added, they think like beasts and should not have the right to choose who to mate or breed with. Now, let me ask Dad and his ass camera, where do you get that?
Is there a specific ass camera?
Yeah, I think there is.
Is there? Okay.
I think there is. Where does he get that? He's not getting that from society. What kid talks about women have the right to choose who to mate and breed with?
Sick.
He's made them into objects and animals. And he actually goes on to say that he wants, quote, quarantine all women in concentration camps and starve them to death.
Wow.
Now, I got news for you. That is, they should not have the right to choose who to mate or breed with. That is almost an exact quote from Teddy Roosevelt. That is almost an exact quote from Teddy Roosevelt.
But did he say that about women or defectives, as they call it?
He said about people, that they should not have the right to choose.
Because they were trying to make a stronger race.
They were trying to build a master race.
They were trying to breed
progressives.
Out. Yeah.
The progressives, he was a Republican. The progressives said, let's weed out all of the deficients.
And then for Margaret Sanger, it was minorities.
Correct. So they're the only ones that I have read. It's all the progressives, communists, fascists. They're the ones who talk like this. I don't know who else. No small government person talks like this. And no constitutionalist talks like this.
Who is it who has talked and acted on concentration camps in this country? Also progressives.
Oh, and you know what? And what was Daddy doing besides the butt cams? What did you say? Oh, that's right. He was doing Divergent, a story about concentration camps. Oh. Where do you get this? Where did he get this? He wanted himself to be the divine ruler of the planet. He plotted his day of retribution, and then he delayed it because of illness. I believe the actual divine architect of the universe did that too. He was going to create it. He was going to create it in 5 days, but then he got sick, and that's why he had to take the 7th day off, because he was like, I'm a little winded. I've just been recovering from some stuff. He planned to kill people first by luring him to his apartment. Then he wrote he would sneak into every sorority house and slaughter every single one of them with my guns and knives. Knives. before driving to his father's house to kill his little brother and stepmom.
Oh, man.
This guy is...
Jeez.
This guy... Why are we talking about anything except this psychopath and how this psychopath... What in our society is happening? How do kids go dead inside? I have an answer, but nobody was going to want to hear it. Police visited after he uploaded a series of disturbing YouTube videos. They left, and he said he was thankful that all suspicion of him was later dropped. Let's talk about guns, but let's not talk about how the police were there. There was nothing you could do. Well, we could.
Take all the guns.
We could do that, and then...
Get rid of every gun in the world.
We could record every keystroke of everyone's computer.
And arrest them ahead of time.
Arrest them ahead of time.
Before the crime happened. That'd be great.
He details through his manifesto that he's filled a void in his life with violent video games starting at a young age. I got an Xbox at school. The kids were talking about it. I was really eager to have one. I like the Xbox much better than PlayStation 2. The graphics were better. With Xbox, I got the game Halo. I found Halo to be very difficult. I gave up a few times. I had no idea Halo would soon become my favorite video game series that I'd ever played. The upside to moving to the apartment was my mother acquired high-speed internet, and I was able to play the World of Warcraft on her computer along with Halo 2 on Xbox Live. This is the point where my social life ended completely. I would never have a satisfying social life ever again. Listen to this. This is, and we are headed towards 3D virtual reality. 3D virtual reality. And once we hit that and cross that line, you will not relate to human beings anymore. Warning. This is a part where my social life completely ended. I would never have a satisfying social life ever again. It was the beginning of a very lonely period in my life in which my only social interactions would be online or through video games, with the sole exception being my friendship with James. The ability to play video games with people online temporarily filled a social void. I got caught up with it, and I was too young and naive to realize the severity of how far I had fallen. I was too scared to accept it. This loss of social life, coupled with the advent of puberty, caused me to die a little inside. It was too much for me to handle. I stopped caring about my life and my future. I even stopped caring about what people thought of me. I hid myself away in the online world of Warcraft, a place where I felt comfortable and secure.
Jeez. And it's guns they're talking about.
And it's guns.
That is unbelievable.
This is important. I don't care what the rest of the media says to you. Please listen to me. Please listen to me. You've got to get the video games out of your child's hands. Please. I'm having a hard enough time trying to do it in my own home. You know, Grandma and Grandpa will come down, and they'll hand the phone. And before you know it, my son is sucked into the video game. Stop it. Stop it. They go over to people's houses, and they play. Rafe's best friend. They play video games. Enough. No more. Because they cannot handle it. This is not the same as Pac-Man. It is not the same. These are virtual worlds where they live. They live in these worlds. Talk to them.
Brains are being rewired here.
Rewired. And nobody's paying attention to that.
They're not.
When you're just looking at, for instance, I've stopped using my e-reader as much as I can. I read paper books during the day. At night, I read the e-reader because of my glasses and everything else. And so, but I've stopped because I found, just through my own self, I can't recall things. I can't remember where it was. I can't remember what book it was in. I mean, how many times have I said, what book is that in? I don't even remember. I don't remember who wrote it because everything looks the same. And what they found, I saw later, what they found is you'd have a hard time remembering things because of the loss of tactile of the pages and turning. It has something to do with your eyes and your hands. You're seeing it.
Makes
you're
sense.
Feeling it. You can remember things because you remember where in the page, how deep in the book it was. That is just the beginning. They're now saying that e-readers are starting to rewire our children's brains. The more they use an e-reader, the less likely they are to be able to remember things and to sort them the right ways. We are guinea pigs on ourselves. We don't know the effects of these things, and I'm a technology guy. I love technology. I love the future. I'm just saying, warning, we don't know the effects of these things. I don't want the FDA of electronics. I don't want anybody to have to put warning labels on it. And nobody's going to, because nobody's willing to talk about it because it's far too much money being made. There's too much money being made, and so they're not willing to discuss this, but we have to. Because it's not the guns, it's not the knives. It's not even the Hollywood rich lifestyle that he led. It's all of it. It's all of it. Can we have a real conversation, please? We're a society that's being turned upside down, and our children are in real danger of losing their souls, losing everything that's in them. Please, let's have a real conversation. I know that's not what the media wants, but we must. Sponsored this half hour is